Alright, so Tokyo Ghoul read chapter 130. Ladies and gentlemen, we have stuff kicking off. Some big stuff about to lead us into some other big stuff, right? There's a lot of different little pieces in this chapter. Overall, it was quite simple, but I mean, we're slowly getting into like this big fuckery of a war, or at least like the pre-stages of this big fuckery of a war. First of all, I want to touch on the Yoriko situation because it is almost going identical to how me, Jalen, and Sensei Fruit kind of pictured it to be, right? So at this point, Yoriko is being executed. That's right. Furuta has implemented a new, I guess, law in terms of people that harbor ghouls will also be treated as ghouls, if that makes sense. So the punishment for ghouls is death. So people that harbor ghouls, humans or other ghouls or whatever, will be punished and executed. So at this point, Yoriko, there is an official letter at the end of the chapter that Kaneki has, right? This is the thing that we did not know about, that Kaneki had an official document, an official letter by the CCG saying that Yoriko Kuraiwa will be killed and executed on April 25th. This is a very, very big thing because the person that actually finds this letter is none other than Toka. Now, Toka does not know about the whole situation in itself, right? Kaneki's been keeping it under wraps. You know, he's been very undecisive with what he actually wants to do because obviously if he doesn't tell Toka, she's going to be super pissed. You know, that's Toka's best friend. And if he doesn't do anything, it's going to ruin the connection between Toka and Kaneki. Kaneki, on the other hand, wants to do whatever he can to actually help Yoriko, but because he is such a high value target, because he is a king, because he's low on resources, he has no choice but to let Yoriko go, you know, let her die, basically. And he's been conflicted between these two motives because he can't go up there because it's obviously a trap, and on the other hand, he wanted to go up there so he can obviously save Yoriko for Toka's sake. And Kaneki's not a hard-pressed person, like, he's not emotionless anymore, he's actually rather vulnerable, if anything, and his relationship with Toka is, I wouldn't say shaky, but it's definitely on the path where Toka is very controlling over Kaneki, to the essence that if Toka were to find this letter, which she does in this chapter, she's either going to act on her own without Kaneki, because Kaneki can't make up his mind with what he wants to do, or Toka's going to pressure Kaneki into going to save Yoriko. It's hard for me to think that Yoriko and Toka being such close friends that Toka would actually let Yoriko die. She's a pretty big, I want to say, linchpin for Toka as a character, as well as like we get to see some very vulnerable moments from Yoriko, which is rather emotional. So at this point, Kaneki's super conflicted. Toka just found the letter, and that literally ends off that chapter, right? They leave us on this big cliffhanger with we don't know how Toka's going to react with what she's going to do, whether she acts on her own or she tries to pressure Kaneki, but we know that people are setting up, right? Matsuki and everyone else are setting up for this to be a massive trap, and at this point, they are only aiming for Kaneki. They're trying to cut off the head, basically. So either way, Kaneki's in a lose-lose situation. The only way this would be somewhat decent for him, or the best result, I'd want to say, is if he just let Yoriko die. But obviously Toka most likely will not let that happen. Very conflicting moments, and I'm super excited to see how all this unravels. It's almost identical to the ideas we came up with. Really, like, this whole thing happening right now is literally what we talked about in the most recent podcast and how it will most likely go down. So I'm super excited to see how this all unfolds. Now, the beginning of the chapter is actually rather funny, actually, to be honest, because Nishio, you remember how Nishio gave Toka the hamburger, right? Nishio actually caught on with what it was for, and he found out about the child, you know, Toka being pregnant and whatnot. In the recent chapter, it was basically confirmed for us. However, Kaneki didn't know. He was very confused about the whole situation, and Nishio comes in and he's like, you know, like, how rash are you gonna be? You know, you gotta make some pretty tough decisions, and it's not like you're gonna die down here without doing anything because of the child, right? Because of the kid. And Kaneki's like, what? Like, what kid? What are you talking about? And Nishio's like, nah, never mind. Don't forget I said that, man. Don't worry about it. At this point, the next panel, right, Kaneki's fucking sprinting. The dude's running down the hallway, like full fucking Usain Bolt down the hallway to Toka's room, and he's like stressing over everything. He's putting pieces together. He's like, you know, Toka, are you okay? Like, you know, how you feeling? You need this. What's wrong? What's hurting? And Toka doesn't come out and admit that she's pregnant to him, but obviously he pretty much catches on to the idea that she's pregnant, and the fact that he also sees a calendar with a date circled around it for December, which would be her delivery date, I'd imagine. That's about 8 months from I guess the current date, which I believe is sometime in April. I'm not entirely sure what the date is. I believe from the letter it says it's probably like April 15th, so, or, you know, somewhere near there. So I am super excited to see how this all goes down, because Kaneki just found out that he has a child on the way. Toga seems like she's successfully pregnant. Maybe the complexity of the child's not as difficult as we thought. You know, all that stuff is still a mystery to us, so I'm super excited to see how, I guess, Toga goes on from here. Like, does she gradually get worse, or like, did eating that hamburger actually help her and the child, you know, grow, if that makes sense? Is it just going to be a normal child, or is it going to be a lot more complex than that? Does Toga have to degrade her own body so the child can flourish? Who knows, right? But Kaneki's on board at this point. You know, he's a little bit oblivious to it at first, but I believe he's kind of finally made the connections thanks to Nishio and, I guess, the hints that Toga basically gave out to him. So everything's slowly unraveling. I think Kaneki's going to be super defensive when it comes to Toga now, and the fact that she just found this letter surrounding Yoriko's death and her execution. I'm just hoping she does not act on her own. Seriously, like, Toga at the moment being pregnant, you know, she's going to do some pretty fucking rash stuff she's not going to think about, and it's putting her in the firing range. So I'm excited to see how she approaches the situation. Like, surely she's not dumb enough to just dip out now that she has a child inside of her. Is she that selfish? All right, what she's doing now is very noble. You know, she's almost killing herself. You know, she's poisoning her body basically to try and save this child inside of her. You know, their rations are very, very small, so everything's entwining very nicely, and I am super excited to see this stuff really kick off. Next couple of chapters, we should be getting that. So with that being said, I'm actually going to end the video off here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.